Prayer. Father, thank you for being present in my life. You care for me and know what my future holds, even when things seem hopeless. Give me the strength to trust you in suffering and honor you in my circumstances. Amen. How Jesus healed suffering. Today, let's look at the story of the bleeding woman in Luke. She had suffered with this hemorrhage for 12 long years, but she was suffering in more ways than one. According to the Jewish laws, women were considered unclean until they could prove they were no longer bleeding each month. This woman would not have been allowed to touch, or be touched by, anyone in her life. After spending everything she had with doctors and people who said they might have a cure, she was desperate and her illness was only getting worse. Then, she heard stories about Jesus and that he was able to heal many others with chronic diseases and illnesses. Jesus had just arrived in the city when a synagogue ruler rushed through the gathering crowd and begged for him to come heal his daughter. The woman with the discharge of blood was in that crowd. After 12 years of searching for answers, she had faith that her healing would be found in Jesus. With one touch of his robes, she was made clean. 12 years of complete physical separation ended. 12 years of discomfort were over. Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" She knew he was asking for her, and was afraid she had nothing left to give but the truth. His response was full of grace, "Go in peace and be healed." See how Jesus leaves her. Healed, at peace, and known. She was already physically well, but he sought her out and wanted to know her story and heart. Now, he could finally be around others without fear of them becoming unclean. Jesus heals not just her body, but her soul. The same can be true for you. He can heal your emotional hurts and cover over your deepest sins. He can bring you into community with the Father and with other believers. Our earthly bodies may be broken and weak, but we can rely on the power and timing of the Lord to make us whole. Look in the Word. What did you notice in these passages that is new to you? Suffering can be long-term. How does this story show us to respond to suffering? What's next? Take time to journal. How do you see the Lord in your life right now? What is one way He has shown Himself to you this week? Write it out on a note card and carry it with you. Keep your eyes focused on the Lord through this physical reminder of His presence.
If a woman has a flow of blood for many days that is her menstrual period, or if the blood continues beyond the normal period, she is ceremonially unclean. As during her menstrual period, the woman will be unclean as long as the discharge continues.
A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself,
"If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed."
Immediately the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him,
"Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask who touched me?"
But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over."
He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things are gone forever.